boys and girls. Welcome back to the only Sharks podcast that is unfiltered, unedited, uncensored, and commercial-free. The Pucknologists here on Tealtown, USA. It was a busy week of hockey for the Sharks as they went 4-1 over 5 games. And some new Sharks picked up their first ever NHL goals. We'll dive into that along with the Evander Kane suspension, Sharks statistics so far, notes from opening night, and more. But first, do us a favor. Remember to subscribe. Follow us on the social media. It's one of those days already, isn't it? Wah! YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. If you'd like to support the show, you can always use the Super Chat option during the live shows, but we appreciate it on Venmo. You can find us at Tealtown, USA, right over there. So, let's go. And welcome to the show. I'm AJ. We got Hockey Jerkman rocking that Karlsson shirt, and I'm sure I'm going to get carved in a little bit. How about you doing, buddy?
So, a little Easter egg that I just noticed. Do you happen to know what jersey number Erik Karlsson wears?
Thought it was 65, but I've been wrong before.
You're correct. What I found to be quite interesting is he currently has 6 points in 5 games. So,
well, you got their numbers?
You know, just another way for him to stick it to you. But go ahead.
So let's get into this. You know, normally we would start with the first game, but it just dropped about an hour ago that the Sharks have announced that they've traded Dylan Gambrell to the Ottawa Senators for a 7th-round pick in next NHL draft. I'm on record saying that I didn't think Gambrell would have even gotten a contract extension if not for needing a warm body for the expansion draft. Begs the question, how many former Sharks are now Senators? I mean, talk about loving a dance partner. So right now, as it stands, according to Cap Friendly, Sharks now have 3 picks in the 7th-round draft. Jerk, your thoughts on this?
Well, first things first. I mean, I think it goes without saying because it's been said many times before, but I'll say it again. I like Dylan Gambrell as a player. Obviously, I don't think he's come anywhere close to what we all anticipated his ceiling was 5 years ago when he was drafted. But I'm happy for him because he gets a new opportunity in a new city, and you just hope that it works out for him on a personal level. But from the Sharks' perspective, they get that 7th-round pick, which is nice. We know they love to, snap 7th-round picks around up and down all day on that second day of the draft. So it's another piece of late-game currency for them. But to take a guy with a 2nd and then flip him for a 7th, I mean, that's a net loss when you break it down.
Yeah.
Now, we'll have to see what the Sharks get with this 7th-round pick, whether it's a drafted player or they trade it for something else. The Dylan Gambrell story is not closed yet because of this outstanding draft pick. Excuse me. I'm just so choked up. Gambrell's leaving. But good for him. Asset management for the Sharks, not so great. But I think the improved depth on the team sort of made this an okay move to make.
Yeah, and from what I understand, Ottawa's kind of hurting right now with center depth. So,
yeah, for them, Shane Pinto actually got hurt in the game against the Sharks. I believe it was Ferraro who took him out. And then I can't say for sure, but I'm fairly certain that Colin White, another good young player who has played center, I believe he might be out for the entire year or a majority of the year. So you're right. They, another warm body who can play in the NHL would not kill them at all.
So there you go. Best wishes, Dylan. We move on. We had 5 games since the start of the season, or I guess, this is the first episode for us for the season. How did I do on my predictions? I went 3-5. I thought that, I had my sheet filled out long ago of basically the entire schedule where I thought they would win and lose. And I was mistaken. I thought they would lose against Winnipeg, but I did have wins against Montreal and Ottawa. Had a loss against Toronto though, but I did pick the loss against Boston. So 2-3 or 3 out of 5 on that. Not bad. It's a winning record, right?
Yeah, I I I personally think making serious predictions is a fool's game. I'm in the business of making fun, ridiculous predictions.
Sure.
But if I had to break this down, I mean, I'm probably with you. I based on everything we'd seen up to that point, um, I don't want to say I was expecting it, but like had the Sharks lost to Winnipeg on opening night, I wouldn't have been too surprised just based on what everybody said about the Sharks and what everybody said about the Winnipeg Jets. But at the same time, and I've kind of gone back and forth with a handful of people on this, but it's like you get the people who are saying it's early, let's temper the expectations, but also the Sharks were, for their standards, historically bad the last 2 years. I'm of the belief that, hey, 4-0 start, now 4-1, obviously, with the outcome of today's game known. I think the Sharks should be very happy and proud with themselves for getting off to, they showed up on time, and they were all business from the beginning, and we'll get into it, obviously. But even in the Boston game, I thought after they sort of played with their food a little bit, but they got it figured out eventually, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be happy about.
Well, let's start with that opening night game and get everybody caught up here. Excuse me. Boy, we're all choked up with the Gambrell thing. So the Sharks pull a 4-3 win opening night at SAP Center. The Sharks are able to come back from being down 2-0, scoring 4 straight, coming from Cogliano, Weatherby, Hurdle, and Balsers. Of note, the Sharks did exchange shorthanded goals in this one. The Sharks' power play did score twice, going 2 for 5. The penalty kill was a perfect 3 for 3. Big one for me, the Sharks winning 59% in the circle. Hurdle and Weatherby lead the charge in that one with 2 points on the night each. Then we head out to the Northeast. Another Canadian trip. Here we go. Sharks at Montreal, 5-0 shutout for Adin Hill. Jonathan Dahlen would get his first 2A and NHL goals in the first 3.5 minutes of this game. EK65 would drop the third goal in the final minute of the first. Meyer and LeBanc toss in one each for good measure. The Sharks again score twice on the power play and go perfect. 3 for 3 on the PK again. Increase themselves a little bit in that dot, going 62%. The line of Dahlen, Couture, and Meyer exploded, accounting for 7 points, and that is a line that we will be talking about in a little bit. 3 for Timo, 2 each for Couture and Dahlen. On the blue line, Karlsson had a goal and 2 assists. And of note, Karlsson playing significantly less ice time than last season and the season before, but does look like a hockey player again. Sharks at Ottawa, that's a 2-1 victory for San Jose. Brady Tkachuk in his season debut after getting his contract squared away. Reimer gets his first start of the season, and the Sharks admitted it wasn't a pretty game, but those are the wins that bring you together. After going down 1-0 in the first, the Sharks would strike for 2 in the second from Couture, then LeBanc on the power play. Couture, Meyer, Eklund, LeBanc, Karlsson, and Burns coming out of this with a 3-point streak, a 3-game point streak. The penalty kill continues to be perfect. The power play scores for the third straight. And this was EK65's first win with the Sharks over Ottawa. And there was a poll that was taken, evidently, that was mentioned on NHL radio that I thought was rather funny, that said 3 years ago they took a poll about the EK65 trade. 3 years ago they said it was the worst trade in franchise history for the Senators. Then like 3 days ago, they took the same poll, and many of those people are saying it's now the best trade in franchise history. So you make the call. Sharks at Toronto, it's a 5-3 victory. Boring first period, 3 goals scored within 75 seconds of the second with Couture opening. Spezza would tie it, but Meyer would take the lead right back. The Sharks allow another tying goal before Karlsson, boom, scores again, gives the Sharks the lead. They would not give up. Jonathan Dahlen gets his third of the season. Couture pots an empty netter to finish it. Hill made some amazing saves and kept the team in it. And to point out what a good feeling you got from this one, both Vlasic and Middleton got assists. 6 points came from the Logan Couture line. That brings us to earlier today. Sharks at Boston, the first loss for San Jose this season. A ridiculous 10 a.m. game during NFL season. And I believe the Patriots were playing at the same time, so whatever. But it is the Sharks' 4th game in 6 nights. Notes out on this one. Eklund and Peterson coming in Gadjevich and Barabanov, who, if you listen to some people, was playing his first NHL game, despite playing 22 previous NHL games. I'm not sure how that works out. The Sharks gave up 2 in the first 3.5 minutes, including Marchand scoring 28 seconds in. Sharks also allowed their first power play goal of the season from Pasternak. Weatherby got one back, but after DeBrus made it 5-4, made it 4-1 in the second, Hill would get pulled in favor of Reimer. I did think Hill looked a little shaky. A couple of those early Boston goals looked like they were pretty open looks. Not all his fault, but Hill did allow 4 goals on 14 shots. Reimer comes in perfect 20 for 20, and the Sharks make it interesting on tip goals from Hertl and Meyer, but it took the Sharks almost 13 minutes to register a shot on goal in the third, during which Barabanov was bumped up to the Hertl line, Balcer's bumped down, which, if I remember correctly, we actually talked about over the last couple days on Discord. So, anyway, for that week of hockey, well, give me your good, your bad, and ugly. Or your hat trick of comments. I've evidently bored Hockey Jerk to tears. He's left.
No, you know what? I was thinking about the Gambrell trade again, and I actually started crying, so I just muted up real quick. Watching these couple of games, I got to watch every game, obviously, and kind of just making a little bit of mental notes on each one and then flipping through the game sheets once again. And I have them all up, so I was flipping through them again as you were talking. A couple things came to mind. So in this game, Boston Bruins today, if you're listening live, there were, and even Bob said it as well, a couple people were saying how Barabanov looked, like he had the speed wobbles a little bit. I thought he looked good, at least in the first half of the game. I thought he was one of the best forwards on the ice. Got an assist in his return. So the Barabanov bump, if you will, that we saw last year is still alive and well. Yeah. And I'm just, I don't know. The thing that I've noticed from game to game, Vlasic's ice time is historically low. Yeah. And I think it's indicative of how the other guys in the team have played. Obviously Burns and Karlsson are going to munch the minutes. That's not a big secret, but Ferraro quietly, it's ironic that Vlasic has, part of his first name is Edouard because Mario Ferraro has become the steady Eddie back there, where it's like, you look, Ferraro was second for defenseman in minutes today, and he was barely second, and he looked fine. He was playing well, dialed in, but he looked like he could have kept going. And so that's obviously good to see there. I do want to, again, I'm talking about things that just popped into my head as watching these games. Quick shout out to Mark, our buddy, our cohort here on the site. Mark was getting some grief on Reddit right before the season started because apparently he was too high on Jonathan Dahlen. Now, guy's got 3 goals in 5 games. I think he's come as advertised, no?
I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so shout out to Mark if you're listening. I was, and this is going to sound weird when it comes out, but I was not too upset to see Lane Peterson get scratched today. Yeah, I'm just on record. I don't.
We've only been talking about the guy for the last week.
Right, and I don't, that's not to say he's a bad player. He's a guy, right? And my whole thing I've been saying is okay, you're saying that John Leonard or Noah Gregor or Joachim Blichfeld or Yoel Shellman, they can't play that spot and done what he's done. And if you look at the game notes for all 5 games, with the exception of a couple seconds that he was on the ice, right? Lane Peterson is the only player who did not play power play or penalty kill. Every other player had one or the other in addition to their 5 versus 5 minutes. So it kind of...
How did Gadjevich get any special teams time today?
He got 13 seconds shorthanded. So, you can say, he's getting the Peterson treatment as well, but
but Gadjevich has an assist. Last time I looked, Peterson doesn't, but Peterson does have at least one penalty.
He does have an assist. I think also I mean, he took one face-off today and he won it, so good for him. But I like the physicality he brought. Like, I know it's a different league, and you don't need these guys tumbling around the ice anymore, dragging their knuckles, right? But it's nice to have a physical presence. And Gadjevich set the tone early. He was not afraid to get up in the business of anybody on the Bruins, and so I quite liked seeing that. I think ultimately I would like a player like that who maybe's got a little more in the tank in terms of offense and everything like that, but it's still early. Maybe Gadjevich is that guy.
There you go.
I don't really have a lot else to say about these games. I mean, the Sharks, the big thing for me is that they faced adversity in every game. And in all but one of them, they were able to come back and win. And even in today's game, they almost came back.
Yeah,
so
Bugner in the post game saying, he's like, if there was another 5 minutes on that clock, just saying.
I would agree with that. And it's, how many times these last 2 years, as I said, they've been kind of a disaster these last 2 years. But how many times have we seen the Sharks get down early like they have in every game this season, and the game's over at the end of the first period?
Yeah. Well, and I kind of wonder, I mean, I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole, but who do you think starts the next game in Nashville in net? Reimer looked real good.
I would say, I think nobody on the staff is going to admit it, but just based on how the starts have shaken out, Adin Hill is the starter.
Oh, yeah.
So I think...
I liked what I've seen from Hill until today. Today, like I said earlier, I thought he was a little shaky. The couple of those Boston goals early, I was kind of like, really? It seemed like he had a pretty good open look. Not much of a screen, but
I tend to give him the benefit of the doubt in this case only because the Sharks were. I mean, the first half of this game, the Sharks. You talk about stumbling over yourself. that was the Sharks. Like I can't recall which period it was in, but there was one instance where it was right before, I want to say it was right before Jake DeBrusk's goal, which was the fourth goal of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Ferraro, Balcers, and Barabanov were all within like a square yard of where the puck was in the defensive zone. And I'm watching this, I'm thinking like, good Lord, like somebody get the puck out of the zone.
And that was that was something that Bugner also mentioned in the post game today was that they just did not spend enough time in Boston's offensive zone. They were too busy just trying to clean up their own mess. So
right, and we saw in the third period, once the Sharks started to do what Bob is talking about, Hertl gets a goal, Timo Meier gets a goal, and the Sharks were buzzing even to end that game. Like I agree with Bob. If there's a couple more minutes left, maybe it's a tied game, and we're talking about something different.
Hey, now, just to let you know, in the chat, I see you. Racist fan rocks for how is everybody liking the NHL on TNT? We will get to that shortly. Don't worry, that's on the rundown. Let's get to the statistics so far, though. The power play clicking at 29% right now. Currently 7th in the NHL. They'd scored at least one power play goal in 3 of 5 games. They scored 2 power play goals in 2 of the games. That's a clear sign of things getting better. If you remember last season. The penalty kill coming into Boston today was a perfect 10 for 10. Finished today, it's now 12 for 13, but 92%, that's not bad.
Last I checked, that was good.
Yeah, 4th in the league currently. The face-off win percentage, that started off very hot, like 61% through those first 2 games. They're now at 52%. Still, 7th in the NHL, better than 50-50. You got to like that.
Yeah, and with stuff like that, like power play, penalty kill, face-offs, like it's, that kind of stuff, it's so hard to critique that stuff, right? Because it's like, I feel like after it's all said and done, right, let's say it's the end of the year, and you're looking at everything, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, so these 4 or 5 games, these are the outliers. Mm-hmm. Well, all 5 of those games are going to be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, no kidding. Adin Hill right now, goals against is 2.92. Again, you're talking a couple outliers here. Save percentage 890. You listen to that and you go, yikes. But, if you toss out the Montreal shutout and you toss out the 7-18, I believe, was from Boston today, he's right in there where you need him to be, and he's 3-1. What was it? What's the most important goalie statistic? Wins.
Right.
So Reimer right now, .65 goals against with a .980 save percentage. If your backup's bringing that, I think you like that.
Yeah, and for sure, only one start and one relief effort. So by definition, he's not been tested much at all. But it's that old kind of saying that I stand by where it's like, when your number's called, you got to be there. And so far, Reimer has.
What is it? I had my guy.
Yeah.
Points from the blue line. 2 goals, 12 assists. Of course, both of those goals coming from Erik Karlsson, but that's another thing you have to be jazzed about is you're seeing more production from the blue line than you have the last couple of seasons. Mm-hmm. Couture and Meier currently tied for the lead in goals and points, each having 3 goals, 8 points. So this begs the question, you know it, we all love it. Who's leading in the module, Jerk?
Well, let's take a look here. I got it all dialed up, ready to go for you. So what do you want to know first?
Who has the most high-value points right now?
So right now, there are 2 players who are tied for high-value goals. It's Logan Couture and Jonathan Dahlen.
Hey, now. Anybody else of note kind of standing out there for you?
Jonathan Dahlen. The fact that he's got 3 goals on the year, 1 medium value, 2 high value. I mean, again, it's early, but with young players, especially Jonathan Dahlen, who's like everybody's been all over him since he was drafted in 2017, and so far it's only been 5 games. It's early. We understand this, but to make an immediate impact when you have no prior body of work in the NHL, it's encouraging and it's good. And these are things that we, and when I say we, I mean the Sharks, were wanting out of everybody, not just Jonathan Dahlen, but I'm going to use him as an example. Like for years, the thing has been, well, we got these young players and we're going to get them in and it's going to be great. And it hasn't been so great.
Yeah.
Now it has been. Jonathan Dahlen leads the module. If you subscribe to that, which if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you do. Jonathan Dahlen leads the module. But even guys not on the module, William Eklund has, he's played between preseason and regular season. He's played 10 games with the Sharks. He's got a point in every game except for the one against Toronto.
Man,
that's more impressions from the youth, early impressions that the Sharks have been claiming they're going to have for the last 2 years, and we're finally seeing it.
Well, the other thing of note, I mean, you mentioned Dahlen. What can you say about Timo Meier so far?
I think everybody owes him an apology.
Beast so far. Like, this is the Meier I've been looking for. The Couture line with Meier and Dahlen, 19 points in 5 games.
Right. And like you'd be hard pressed to find something about Timo Meier, as he's known in my house by certain individuals as T. He's he's tied for the league team in scoring, as you said, which is good because like he's a young, I would say, elite player, and you need young elite players to carry your team. He's doing that. What I think really stands out to me, he's probably one of the most physical guys on the team. Like, he's going to hit you, and he plays on that line, that proverbial line that we always talk about. Through 5 games, 0 PIMs. So he's making an impact, but he's keeping it clean as well, which we like to see. And
because wasn't that a thing for him with the early on with the CUDA?
Oh yeah, it was death, taxes, and a Timo Meier minor penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's, like I said, he's making an impact physically, but he's not allowing it to get him into trouble with penalties. And just a real quick, he's through 5 games he's got 10 hits so far. Like, maybe that's not a lot through 5 games, but any of those could have been a minor penalty, and they weren't.
Yeah, and he's getting that shot off.
Yeah, and he's getting a shot off as well, which my biggest complaint about him last year was his shot selection. It was like, oh, okay, get to the top of the faceoff dot, throw it at the goalie's glove, and we're going to go to commercial. And now, like, he's still taking a crap load of shots. I mean, he's had 20 shots through the first 4 games. The stats for tonight's game are not updated. So 20 shots through the first 4 games, which is unreal. And then the shots you're taking, they're more of the grade A variety. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, just talking about his PIMs as well. Yes, he's physical. He's throwing the body, but also he's got 4 takeaways this year. And you know how they call penalties now. Any of those takeaways can be a slashing penalty or a hooking penalty, and he's keeping it clean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing that makes me somewhat nervous is the fact that Couture's line, they're the ones that are doing all the producing. I would like to see a little bit. Like, I was kind of up on that first game with Hurdle and Balsers, and now I'm kind of like, and Eklund had some moves. But I feel like we need to see a little bit more from that line, and maybe that's why Eklund watched from the box today. Maybe that's why Barabanov got bumped up, but that's something I definitely want to keep an eye on.
I think it's also worth mentioning as well, and we've talked about this with the defense as well, but the Hurdle line, whoever Hurdle is playing with, like it could be Hurdle, me, and you, because Hurdle is the center, the top center, he's out there the most. So you can definitively say you're out there the most. Chances are you have a higher chance of being scored on. And I think we were talking a few minutes ago about outliers. I think this is an outlier because we could easily see, the Sharks' schedule. They've got coming up in this week, and obviously we'll break it down as we go along. But coming up this week, they've got 3 games this week before our next show. Balsers could easily have a goal in every game. Like it's the first week, and I would say them not really being on the score sheet outside of that first game, I would say that's one of those outliers that we're talking about.
Yeah, and 2 of those games coming against teams that the Sharks have already beaten.
And the third is against a team that everybody is expecting to be bad. So
right. Yeah, but I thought Nashville beat somebody of significance either earlier today or yesterday. Am I wrong?
The Sharks beat Toronto, so.
Yeah, but who did the Preds just beat?
They played Minnesota today and beat them 5-2.
Yeah, that's what it was. I
know, but a broken clock is right twice a day.
There you go. Our buddy Darren Stevens said, with Weatherby's goal, the Sharks have 5 goals from rookies so far this season, most in the NHL. San Jose had 6 from rookies all of last season, 56 games. And with Gadjevic's assist, San Jose also leads the NHL with 11 points from rookies. Now, let's also quantify that. Eklund hasn't scored his first yet. So,
and I think we're talking about everything going on here. We plugged Mark earlier. I think we got to give you a shout out, because
do I get 14 points?
Yeah, well, everybody during the preseason, everybody was talking about Jasper Weatherby, but in my kind of analysis of everything, I feel like you were the only one who's like, yeah, he's on the team, he's there, he's going to make an impact, and 2 goals, 1 assist through the first 5 games, and he's pretty high on the module as well. He's 7th on the module. He's got that 1 low value goal, 1 high value goal. So, quick shout out to you. I think he has you set the bar very high for him, and he's reaching it.
And as you said earlier, broken clock can be right twice. No, I've got the receipts. Go check my Twitter. I was espousing the talents of Weatherby very early on, saying that he would get the call over Gambrell. So
confirmed.
Right. The other thing I want to kind of ask you, they, the social
people are saying,
many people are saying, the many social media people, those on the soch, they're usually very quick to give Bugner, they're usually quick to pile that shit pretty high on Bugner when things are not going well. I don't know about you. I'm not seeing a whole lot of praise for Bob with the way things are going right now. Do you think that is unfair to the boogeyman?
I do think it's unfair only because, like, like I said, last year and the part of 2 years ago that he was the head coach, like, he was being blamed left, right, and center for things that weren't really his fault. And that's fine. It's going to happen. But if you're going to throw that much blame on him, I think it's only fair that you also throw praise on him as well. And now, as I always say, the coach does not put on the skates and go out there, but the coach makes lineup decisions. You know, the general manager says, okay, here are your players. Play them however you want. And so far, everything that Bob has done has yielded positive results. Even today, he threw the lines in a blender, and look, it got 2 third-period goals.
I'm waiting for somebody to come down the pipe and say, this is all John McClain. This has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So let's get into some quick hits here. We'll go back to opening night, first night back. The Sharks evidently sold out the barn, although ESPN reported attendance at 16,137. So, look, there's a difference between tickets sold versus tickets scanned. Just let it all go. We're going to, bury that debate and let it die. But I wonder how much of an impact the vaccination requirement and the new bag policy had on those 1,400 people that didn't decide to use their tickets. But we're going to keep an eye on those numbers because many fans were saying on social media, complaining, because that's why God invented social media, complaining about the long lines to get in with the Clear app, yet Jonathan Becker blamed the delays both on manual vax checks and the bags being larger than the new policy contributed. So most fans said metal detectors were actually the cause. Either way, the truth is somewhere in the middle, and we'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure the process will get better as people get used to it. As for the in-game stuff, the Sharks have added LED lighting to the seats for either a futuristic feel or to really highlight how many people did not go to the game that night. I mean, I don't know. I'll find out on Thursday what it looks like, but
yeah, I think I remember too when the NHL as a whole first implemented the metal detectors, that jammed everybody up too. And now, at least if you've got your head screwed on straight, you know how to get through the metal detector, no problem, easy peasy. And I think, not to assign blame, but they there are people who say, oh well, I'm not setting up the Clear app, I'll just bring my card, and that's fine. But the problem with that is when you have 6,000 people, let's just say, who all do the same thing, it's going to jam everything up. And we, I think we saw the product of that because, for the player introductions and the anthem, it was looking pretty thin in there. But, by the time the first period got cooking, it definitely filled out a lot more.
Yeah. Returning to the tank. I'm sure you have to love it. Tacos.
I mean, I wasn't there, but okay.
But tacos. And when I say tacos, what I mean is, no, they bring back the 4 in the net promotion for you old schoolers that go back to the day of 4 in the net pizza you get from Round Table.
Yeah. I still have my keychain, dude.
Right? With the Pepsi and everything? Sure.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, back in the day, I ate myself a lot of Round Table because the Sharks were scoring a lot of 4 in the nets.
Yeah, no doubt.
So now it's tacos. Speaking of kind of retro and bringing back things of old, Drew Remenda, he returned to the broadcast on the radio side with Dan Ruzanowski. Evidently got a huge ovation when he was shown on the Jumbotron. I'm not taking all the credit for Drew's return, but I think a scotch might be appropriate.
It only took 7 years, but you finally wore him down.
Right now, my next project is to get the jumbotron replaced.
Oh, jeez.
What's it been? 14 years? I don't know. Get the calculator. On ice projection returned, which is nice because you might remember the last couple seasons they tried projecting onto curtains hanging from the rafters. They tried a cylindrical curtain hanging from the jumbotron, and it did not work out well because you had banks of fans that are like, I can't see what the hell is going on, but everybody can see the on ice projection. The music that the Sharks are now playing is interesting, we'll say.
Is it choice?
It wouldn't be my choice. I'll leave that at that. And evidently, the organist we all came to know and love, Mikey Day, no longer at SAP Center. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of why or what the speculation is. I have a pretty good idea of why he is not there right now, and again, we'll leave that there. Besides all that, the Sharks introduced themselves a new in-game host, Emily. You'll remember former host John Root announced he was let go shortly after the NHL shut down in March 2020 for COVID. So far, it seems as though most people have said, hey, you know what? I didn't feel like I was being shouted at. Not as much on the microphone as John was back in the day, so maybe they've, dialed that back and it won't be as intrusive to your in-game experience. Again, I'm still on record saying that I don't think any hockey team needs someone to tell them when to be a fan. But no real complaints so far. Of note, and let's get into it, during the ceremony of opening night, you had guys like Barabanov, VL, Knizhov, guys that were not dressed, not out there, but they were all acknowledged. But the one player who, of course, was not, Evander Kane. So let's get into it real quick. Speaking of Evander, so the NHL dropped the bomb last week saying that he would be suspended for 21 games. Then Kane himself issued a statement saying he would like to apologize to his teammates, the organization, all the fans for violating the NHL COVID protocol. I made a mistake, one I sincerely regret, take responsibility for, blah, 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 blah. And the reason why I say that is because, a mistake is pouring, soda into your cereal instead of milk. Like you grab the wrong container. To me, that's a mistake. From what I understand, all the reports is like, no, he purposely tried to mislead the team. That's not a mistake. That is a choice. The Sharks...
real quick, to borrow a expression from a pretty popular movie called Mr. Deeds, bullshit. Continue.
Yeah. So the Sharks issued their statement saying, we're encouraged by Evander's commitment to moving forward, but we are extremely disappointed by his disregard for the health and safety protocols put in place by the NHL and Players Association. No more comments on Evander's status prior to the conclusion of the NHL's mandated suspension, which will occur, November 30th, I believe, is the first game he's allowed to return after the 21 games. So... look, I'm not going to get into the personal crap with his estranged wife. This just has to do with hockey. Kevin Kurz from The Athletic asking, will Kane be permitted back to the practice facility? I can't imagine why he would be.
Well, and that's the thing is, so he part of the, I guess, stipulations of being suspended is you're not allowed to go to facilities, NHL facilities. And if you flash back a couple years ago, the LA Kings, when they were dealing with all the Slava Voinov drama, had him out at a practice while he was suspended, and they got dinged for $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, he will not be at Sharks Ice until his suspension is up, if he's even there at all.
Yep.
But all things aside, like let's just say, for hypothetical sakes, let's just say it's November 30th, the suspension is up, and for some reason he's in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Guy hasn't skated since August, maybe even July.
And another interesting kind of little tidbit, that game, November 30th, at New Jersey, but that's an ESPN game.
Oh, God. I think that what the impression that you should be getting, at least from me, is that when this suspension is over, I would like the Sharks to just keep the good times rolling and not play him.
Yeah. So Kerr's also asking, why wasn't he disciplined last season when he was flouting team rules? If you remember, Bugner at the end of the season actually mentioned that, there were some guys that weren't held to account like they should have been. Is there any way he can play another game for the Sharks? I say no. But if not, is there a way for the Sharks to get out from under his contract, which has 3 years remaining after this one at a $7 million AAV? Forbes did a great piece, basically, almost, but not quite basically saying that, the Sharks are going to have to eat this. Like, they don't see termination happening.
Well, and the NHL said as well that termination was not an option because in their mind the suspension is punishment enough.
21 games seems light for me for this, but when
you see for a literal crime.
Yeah. But Kerr said, let's hope Doug Wilson provides at least some insight into these topics, because right now the decision to sign Kane to that deal at the cost of losing Joe Pavelski looks like the biggest error in his tenure, and it's not even close. to quote a different EK. He said, we can only speculate as to what Hasselplattner thinks, because what's transpired with Kane is the sort of thing that leads to a front office house cleaning. So does he return this season? Is he paid to stay at home, bought out next summer? Because, who's going to take this project on now?
Not anybody in North America.
That's all I'm saying. And with all that said, Evander Kane's jersey readily available at the Shark store to buy. So there you go. And if you're looking at picking up a jersey from the store, take note of the name and number material. Just saying. Brian Witt on NBCSN Bay Area wrote that the Sharks are suddenly a possible landing spot for Jack Eichel. Do you believe any of that, sir?
Well, no, and I'll tell you why. Because the I guess I don't even know, the inspiration for this post was nothing official at all.
Yeah, I think it was like speculation that if Kane's contract was terminated.
It was not even speculation. It was literally just like a thought.
Oh.
Hypothetical.
Then why were we even talking about that?
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. So, and Pierre LeBrun was on overdrive and basically said, if the Sharks are out from Evander Kane's contract all year, I wonder if they would do something that involves bringing in money, maybe like Jack Eichel. It was 100% hypothetical, and really just like a conversation piece. There was no speculation or rumor or whispers or anything. It was literally just a couple guys having a chat. And so to see people blow it up, it's kind of like, well, I don't know if you listened to the hit, but all right.
All right, so let's move on to a little bit around the NHL. We mentioned earlier from the chat some comments about ESPN and TNT and all of that. We'll get to that in 1 second. But the Kraken finally had their first home game last night, which ended up being a 4-2 loss to the Vancouver Canucks. Jerk, did you know that Seattle apparently has the best fans in sports? Just like every other single city?
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like everybody else.
Yeah. So, anyway, and speaking of the Kraken, first goal in Kraken history, predictably scored by former Shark Ryan Donato, because hashtag post-Teal syndrome is real, people.
That's how we drew it up, It's exactly what we all expected. Just
saying. ESPN reported that the NHL is mulling over relaxing the dress code for the players, and I'm all for it. Let them show off their personality, let them be comfortable. I'm someone who hates wearing collars and ties and suits, so I can relate. I think it's better to look good than to feel good. Looks like the Maple Leafs have already started relaxing it a bit. Looks like the Sharks have a scotch. So, hey, I'm all for biz casual. Speaking of ESPN and TNT, though, how are we feeling about this new coverage? I think TNT is the early winner, with the exception of Wayne Gretzky using, I don't know, furniture repair color sticks for his hair treatment. I'm not sure.
The ESPN coverage, I'm not sure, because I haven't watched the ESPN coverage, just because the games that I've wanted to watch that happen to be on ESPN have also happened to be on other channels as well. That said, I have watched some highlights. I've watched some highlights of games that were on ESPN. I'm not really a fan of their interface, like their scoreboards and the scoreboards and their graphics and everything like that. I'm not really a fan of all that. I do like their usage of that classic NHL on ESPN theme.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say in terms of the graphics and the interface and the personnel, I think TNT is ahead so far.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think they're killing it. Having much more fun with it. I mean, I thought the Gretzky firing at Charles Barkley was a little much. I get they're trying to do that crossover thing, but I'm like,
well, and that was part of the plan with splitting the rights. Was they wanted, okay, so if you're watching a game on ESPN, that crew, it's going to be more analytical, more sports, right? And the coverage on TNT is meant to be a little more entertainment based, a little flashy. And it was, the idea behind it is that the NHL wants to, do a little bit of double dipping, right? Like have some serious analysis, but also like have some fun with it as well. And I think when you say that TNT looks to be a more upbeat vibe, I think it's a product of that different styles of broadcasting that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, speaking of ESPN, you might remember a while back, Max Kellerman popping off saying hockey is not one of the 4 major sports.
I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but in the United States of America, no one really cares about hockey. The old joke is every town has 20,000 hockey fans. They all have season tickets. So the arenas are always sold out, but the TV ratings don't do anything. So it's not one of the 4 major team sports.
So that was said, I'm not even sure when. What was about maybe like 8-9 months ago or something like that, long before the ESPN deal was signed. And then Kellerman, he's already been dunked on by Barry Melrose. And then in the last week or so, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman got in on the fun.
Look at the fact that we have probably the most avid fans in all sports. Not the largest fan base, but larger than some people have suggested. We think that the opportunity, particularly with our new U.S. media partnerships, to continue this great growth is going to be terrific.
Or these idiots who would suggest such a thing. Outrageous.
Really?
Commissioner,
yes.
It is interesting that
who was that?
It's unbelievable. Hockey is, well, I was referring at the time to the total economy of the sports of NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and NHL.
Yeah, Max, no, you weren't referring to the economy of sports.
No, it's always nice seeing Max Kellerman get flamed like that.
Oh, dude, anytime that guy gets his come up, it's always a good thing. But yeah, listening to him try to walk that back, sure, dude, you were talking about ratings, not the economy. I mean, yeah, they impact some economics, but it wasn't the point you were trying to make when you were being, snarky, but nice try on the spin job. Reverse retro jerseys are reportedly returning next season. I haven't seen anything yet. Will they be the same thing that we saw last season, or will it be a completely new series of reverse retros? Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like Phoenix. that's how retro I got. Arizona, Anaheim, Colorado. There were some teams that took the reverse retro ball and ran for days with it. And then there were teams like Detroit that went Yeah, y'all got any duct tape? We got a practice jersey here. So, do you think next season when they return, because they've got multiple, front office guys saying that, yeah, these are coming back. And let's be honest, money drives everything. They sold really well, specifically the ones that I was talking about, the people that hit it, or the teams that hit it out of the park. Oh, man. You cannot find those jerseys. They're hard to find. And the ones you do find, they're going for a premium on third-party websites, whereas the Detroit jerseys, or who's someone else who, did really poorly? Like Nashville, maybe?
Yeah, Nashville's a good one. The Islanders.
Yeah, those you can find just about anywhere. They can't give those away. So I feel like with the jerseys returning, or with the idea of the reverse retro thing making a return, I would love to see teams take this opportunity to go, okay, we screwed up big time last season. Let's fix that.
Right. And to your point, if you jump onto Cool Hockey really quick, the only teams who still have some in stock are the Maple Leafs and the Blues.
What? Oh, and the Blues went with that clown thing, right?
Yeah, but it goes to show your point. So there were 31 jerseys and only 2 of them are left standing.
Yeah, very popular, and money drives it. So
and I think if they do it again next season, let's just say, or whenever, I think a smart person would say they go with something completely different, just because, as you said, money talks.
Yeah. And speaking of jerseys, for those of you who don't know, Adidas rolled out their whole prime green this season, and the addition of what I'm referring to as depth stitching. So keep an eye out for that if you're at the Shark store when they get the prime greens in. Compare and contrast the crest on the front of your jersey. I think you'll see some interesting things. Let's get into some former Sharks here. We are 19 away, good sir. 19 games away from one Mr. Ian Reed potentially shaving his head live on YouTube. That's right, because Martin Jones played and put up a .925 save percentage, getting his first win on the season. He only needs 19 more wins and to keep it above, what was it? It's got to be over .915, I believe.
Yeah, it was. Well, the big thing was getting 20 starts.
Yes.
But 20 starts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
minimum.
not 19 wins. I'm sorry. God, that's my blunder. 20 starts.
Yeah, 20 starts and a .915 save percentage or better.
All right, it's coming. Chris Tierney started off hot, got 3 goals in the first 3 games, so good for him. Joe Thornton has no points in 3 games, but he was fined under $2,000 for splitting a guy into smalls. Joe Pavelski's been quiet, 1 goal, 1 assist in 5 games, and Patrick Marleau would like to know if you need a babysitter. The San Jose Barracuda right now have played 3 games. They are 2-1. First loss came in a shutout versus the Condors. Then they picked up a 5-4 victory and a 3-2 victory versus the Colorado Eagles. Your goal leaders right now are Hobgawaks and Reedy, each with 2 assists. Ryan Merkley leads with 3. Nick Merkley and Captain Jacob Megna have 2 assists apiece. And your points leaders, again, the aforementioned Hobgawaks, Ryan Merkley, and Nick Merkley, all with 3 points. Sawchenko right now with a nice .957 save percentage, while Melnichuk has been lit up, currently posting an .898. The Barracuda will play twice this week, Friday at the Tank versus those same Colorado Eagles they just beat twice, and on Halloween in Stockton versus the Heat. Let's get to some prospecting, shall we? This is going to be a fun thing to kind of watch as we go along here. I'm going to let Jerk kind of drive this, but let's start with Tristan Robbins, named WHL Player of the Week, has 3 goals, 14 points in 6 games with the Saskatoon Blades. You have to love it?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about earlier, the Sharks for years have been like, oh, we have all these young players and they're so good and they're going to make an impact and blah, blah, blah.
And
but
nothing.
Right, and obviously all these guys, Tristan Robbins, Brandon Coe, Daniil Gushin, Thomas Borlo, Ozzy Weisblatt, all these guys, they're still far away from making the NHL. I don't think anybody would dispute that. But and I feel like this is just me, and maybe some of the other prospect people involved with the site may agree, maybe they disagree, but I feel like this is the most excited I've been about Sharks prospects in a good while, even when the Sharks had exciting prospects.
Yes. Loving it right now. Brandon Coe, 6 goals, 13 points in 8 games with the North Bay Battalion. Tell me I'm pronouncing this right. Daniil Gushkin?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Add a hat trick this week with the Ice Dogs, has 6 goals, 10 points in 7 games. Thomas Bordeleau, 2 goals, 7 points in 6 games at the University of Michigan. And Ozzy Weisblatt, named alternate captain of the Prince Albert Raiders, has 4 goals and 6 points in 6 games. Again, Jerk, this might be the most excited we've ever been about the pipeline. And I don't know if the pipeline is getting the recognition that maybe some people think it deserves.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, the Sharks, especially, you're seeing a lot of guys start to step up who were picked in that 2020 draft. The Sharks had a very good draft in 2020, and I feel like rankings I've read, even rankings in the Athletic, are kind of sleeping on a lot of these guys, right? And you hope that all of them, like, you want them to continue to play well. You want them to make like an impact on the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is a good start. People say, especially in the case of Tristan Robbins, you know what I mean? Like this is essentially his 4th full season, but 5th total in the WHL. And so you're kind of like, yeah, well, he should be doing this. And it's like, yeah, he should. And he is, and it's good. You know what I mean? So the prospects, they just need to keep playing the way they are, keep like making an impact. And I know like the rankings and all that stuff, they don't really matter, but like that's the best way to like build clout for yourself, especially back in San Jose. If these players, they play really well in their junior teams, they become prime candidates to sign tryouts with the Barracuda when it's playoff time in the AHL. And the more games you play, the better chances you have at making a career.
Well, and it's like you always say, let me have my fun.
Right.
Let me enjoy this. It's good, so that's good.
Yes, as Ian Reed says.
So let's start to wrap things up, and I'm just going to give you this moment. Go ahead.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
So,
I've been waiting all show for this.
And now here's the thing. This is not going to be too big of a carve job, because here's the thing. AJ said, Karlsson has been a disaster the first 2 years of his 8-year contract extension, and all I want from him is to play like he's worth the money and make a positive impact on the team. That is what AJ wanted. Correct. And Erik Karlsson has done that this year. 6 points in 5 games, as we talked about earlier, but also he seems to be making crisper plays defensively. Towards the end of this Boston game, he was on his freaking horse to get that icing call towards the end of the game. He just seems like a guy more engaged, more ready to go, and maybe that's a product of him staying in San Jose over the summer. Maybe it's the haircut, maybe it's everything. Who knows? But he's playing like an $11.5 million player. He's getting in on the offense. He's playing well defensively. He's making things happen. This is what AJ wanted. And to AJ's credit, AJ has said, I give him props. He's doing exactly what I wanted. That said,
oh, here it comes.
I would like to remind everybody of this beautiful graphic here. And there's actually an updated graphic that has AJ's face in one of those windows back there. Yeah, Erik Karlsson pushed AJ off the playground this week and said, "Give me your lunch money, punk," because he's I don't know that he's making a believer out of you, but he's certainly taking his 2 Norris trophies and he's bopping you on the side of the head with them.
Look, my thing is, like you said, I just wanted him to play to that deal. Show me that you can be a top level defenseman. If you're getting the most money as a defenseman in the league, you should be at least challenging for the Norris. And I don't know how many times I would see Jones looking to the sky there's a puck behind him in the net, and typically the closest guy to him was Erik Karlsson. And I'm not saying that Erik Karlsson was directly responsible for that puck being back there. I'm just saying, so far this season in 5 games, every time there's been a goal behind Hill or Reimer, I'm not seeing Erik Karlsson involved in that. So, dig it. Keep it up. I don't want to get too excited for 5 games. Let's see where we're at in 20 games, because we saw this before where he had that. I don't know how many times we've heard, we keep being reminded of, remember that 6-week stretch between December and, before the All-Star game and all that crap, and he got injured. And I'm like, 6 weeks out of 3 years? Are you kidding me? So.
Yeah, and I think, and I saw a little bit, what we've talked about in the past with him is I especially in today's game, I can point to at least 3 moments where, and Erik Karlsson, he's a high octane guy. He does the high risk plays in order to make something happen. And there were at least 3 moments where he was doing his job. And
none of this. Are you fucking kidding me?
No, and nobody who was on the ice recognized what was going on and covered him.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, none of those led to goals, but still, it's concerning because you don't blame Erik. Like if that goes the other way and it's goal, you don't blame Erik Karlsson for that, because that's what Erik Karlsson does. You blame the guy who didn't cover his spot.
Yeah.
And the Sharks, they've gotten better, but they still need to work out the kinks when it comes to Karlsson and even Burns jumping up in the play. Like, they need to make sure if that happens, they have a guy drop back, because it's going to allow the offense to be more creative, but also if things sort of blow up, they at least have a fighting chance defensively.
Well, and we'll see if Karlsson's time on ice starts to go up a little bit. Maybe they draw Burns back a little bit, because, man, that's a huge discrepancy right now. 21.
I think, really quick, and then we can get to Ruben. I think the reason, and I'm just speculating, but I think the reason why we're seeing Burns on the ice so much is because he and Mario Ferraro are the top pair.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see them out there the most, but also Mario Ferraro is the best defenseman, emphasis on defense, on the team. And so if you have Mario Ferraro out there to shut it down, it makes sense to have him out there with his regular partner.
Absolutely. 21 pucks in the chat. Thank you for the donation, saying, carve AJ like a Christmas ham. Now, I'm going to just respond to we so appreciate that donation, but I would have figured you've been, saving some cash to buy a jersey. Let's move on to our tweet of the week. Oh, there might be more than
know. I was going to say, I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. So Greg Wyszynski, early in the month. Fun fact, there are now more hockey podcasts than there are players in the NHL. I'm sorry.
That might be true.
I find that incredibly very funny, because it's somebody had brought up on Reddit in the last week or so about the Sharks not getting, any media attention, whether it's from local sports radio or national or whatnot, which, most people know is a drum that I've been beating forever, that I broke the sticks. The drum head is broken. It's hanging on the wall. It's just never going to happen. So fucking forget it. But I did post on there as a response. I'm like, yeah, that's probably the reason why there's like 17 different Sharks podcasts now. So, and that got a lot of upvotes. But look, it's what we want. We all bitched and moaned and pissed and cried for forever, and then we started, Dudes on Hockey was around, and we started up, and now there's a bajillion other ones. So, look, listen to them all, enjoy the ones you like, and pay no mind to the ones you don't, and we can all just be happy about it, right? There you go.
Including ours. If you hate what you're watching, that's okay. But leave a thumbs down, because the engagements help us no matter what.
I mean, we would appreciate it if you didn't, but hey, all the same.
This is America.
Yeah, exactly. That's our tweet of the week there. Did you know the Fanatic still sucks? It's true, people.
So I've heard.
Yeah, so this is one of the latest sent over to us. You'll notice that it's a nice teal hoodie that says Sharks along the front, but the idiots at the Photoshop group evidently forgot to update the sleeves from Seattle to San Jose, although they remembered to do it on one of the photos, which makes you go, what? This company is such a shit show. And on Twitter, this gentleman, I'm assuming his name is Ryan, but I don't want to, I shouldn't assume, but this person, 3.5 months and almost $200 to get this garbage. And the best part is, at least you give refunds. Yeah, we'll see if it's a full refund.
Minus a return label.
Yeah, a return label and blah, blah, blah. Which I think is so funny because when Fanatics sends out a fuck up like this where they, forgot an 8, when they send out a screw up, they still charge you to return it. It's like, wait a minute, you're the one that fucked this up. Why am I paying for your screw up? Thus, why Fanatics is valued at like $10 bajillion right now, because they charge you at every single turn.
Well, not only that, but something else to make note of here in this situation. So Andrei Vasilevsky is number 88.
Yeah,
and
I forgot
it's not even like this jersey was properly put together and then one of the 8s fell off. No.
Yeah, you can see the 8 is dead center.
Yeah, which means whoever put this together thinks that he's number 8.
Christ almighty. And speaking of ridiculous pricing, let's go back to the Kraken for a second. Did you know that you can buy a water for $9?
Yeah, dude, that's ridiculous.
Climate Pledge Arena. A prime beef dip is $24. It's like, well, you can park your car or you can eat. Which would you like to do?
Right. Well, I think there's some other things that they're doing though that I think maybe make it, I don't know, like cheaper elsewhere, so it's more expensive here, maybe. But
Oof.
You're right. That is, I mean, at this point, dude, I'm looking right here, beef tenderloin sliders, dude, whip that up at home.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, some of the roasted bone marrow.
Ew.
Yeah, you could pay me $20. I'm not eating that. I don't. Maybe that's a Seattle thing. I don't know. But either way, yeah, you see the prices for food and bev at events, and it's just they are getting to be so ridiculously outrageous. I can't even. It's like, you know what? And then to see teams complain that fans aren't getting there earlier, and it's like, well, yeah, because they're all at the local bar or the restaurant eating an affordable meal, having an affordable beverage instead of your ridiculous crap. So anyway, let me jump off that soapbox before I go on too long. So not bad for the first show of the season. Got it just a hair over an hour, so it's cool. I did forget to play the Barracuda sounder, but that's all right. You can follow him at Hockey Jerk. I'm sorry. You can follow him at Hockey. Jesus Christ. I'm going to get this. You watch. You can follow him at Hockey_Jerk. That's correct, right?
So they say.
You can follow me at AJ_Strong. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like to hear us discuss, send them along to @TealTownUSA on Twitter. Don't forget to join our Discord channel where the chat never ends. Believe you me, it never does.
That's why you gotta turn off the push notifications and just check it at your leisure.
Oh, and maybe the audio notifications for every time someone makes a post. Check the show notes for the links, guys. Famous last words there, Jerkman.
Oh boy. Well, the first week of Sharks hockey is over, and I think today's loss, you could point to some parts of it and say that was really ugly, but I think it was not 60 minutes of ugly. It was maybe 35 minutes of ugly, which is not great, but could be worse.
Is the amount of time Adin Hill was? No, I'm kidding.
Right, and I think if the Sharks this sounds like the dumbest cliche ever, but honestly, the Sharks don't really need to change much about their game. If they keep doing what they've done through 5 games, they're going to win more than they lose. And that's good if you want to make the playoffs. And also, too, shout out again to Jonathan Dahlen, rookie leading the Hockey Jerk module. We got 3 games this week, so we'll see.
And I'm feeling good about this top 9.
Me too.
right? So, maybe that you plug and play. Let's see what happens when Kniazev finally gets rocking and rolling. Let's see what happens if VL gets a look once he's back. Maybe Barabanov gets a little bit more time. We all remember that 7 points in those last 9 games last season.
Yeah.
Unless you're under the assumption that he played his first NHL game today. So with that, we thank you very much for checking us out. We're here every Sunday, 7 o'clock Pacific, talking about that week in Sharks hockey. I'm trying to think. Did I forget anything? I don't think I did, but check out tealtownusa.com. You can find, every once in a while, someone is motivated to write something that when they have some things to say, and they will put them on the website, and you can find them.
I'm telling you right now, dude, my 2018 trade deadline preview is coming.
Oh,
soon.
Dude, I'm so looking forward to that. And Ian making a good point when it comes to the prices at the Kraken games. Dude, we're talking about the city that invented the $10 cup of coffee.
Yikes.
He's not wrong. He is not
so,
wrong.
We'll get out of here, but something really quick I noticed. So it's, when the Sharks play the Winnipeg Jets on October the 30th, that'll be the second game in this early season that the Sharks are on Hockey Night in Canada. I think that's pretty cool.
And if memory serves, is that not a 4 o'clock start game locally?
Yep, that's exactly why.
Say now. There you go. Dig that part of it. So yeah, I'm feeling good about this, but remember, there are still some key injuries of note. Let's see what happens when those guys get back. I'm interested. I went into this season with no hope. I have some hope. I mean, if you told me at the end of the first week, during our first show, that the Sharks were like in the top 3 of the Pacific and Vegas was in the basement, I would have told you, oh, pull the other leg.
I was gonna say I would have said you're reading the standings the wrong way.
Yeah, dude, turn them over. Turn your phone upside down.
And speaking of Vegas,
oh, you giving it the horse eye? Are you?
I am. They're currently playing the New York Islanders right now in Vegas, and they are losing 1-0.
Hey now, file under things you love to see.
Yeah, it's so I've been told. When 3 of your top 7 players are injured, it's not good.
It is not.
So I've been told.
So once again, everybody, thanks for joining us. Follow us on our social media channels: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. There's always that Discord link. If you listen to us on an audio platform such as iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, whatever, if you could hit that subscribe button there and maybe leave us 5 stars in a review, we would absolutely appreciate that. And if you ever want to support the show, you can do so using that super chat functionality during the live shows. But if you want to send us a donation on Venmo, always appreciate it at Tealtown USA. So with that, I need to, fill up my gas, my little gas contraption container, and top off the lawnmower because I feel like I need to get on some mowing of lawn, if you will. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I got to say, the last 2 years, my lawn has looked spectacular, but feel like I'm starting to need to return the favor. So with that, he is at hockey_jerk. God damn, you need a new user ID. I am AJ_strong on social. We'll see you next week for show 138. Take it easy, everybody.